Hello, you're listening to Mike Madden on the Art Show podcast. Here you will find interviews with authors, musicians, artists and anyone else in and around the arts. Some of the interviews are taken direct from the Art Show on Expat Radio, with one or two specials in between. This show features Welsh singer, songwriter and guitarist Tony Maz and his band Razmtaz. Tony talks us through his musical career, which started in the 60s and still continues today. Hello, this is Mike Madden on the Art Show on Expat Radio, and it's Monday night, so we're going to kick off with some very, very hot music. This song is called Moving On by Razmtaz, and it's from their forthcoming album, also called Moving On.
Your heart to think I'll soon be gone. Moving on, moving on, moving on, moving on. I'm moving on, moving on, moving on, moving on, moving on. I told you right from the start I wouldn't be around for long. And I know it breaks your heart to think I'll soon be gone. I'm moving on, moving on, moving on, moving on. Dust in my tracks. I'm moving on, moving on, moving on, moving on. I told you right from the start I wouldn't be around for long. And I know it breaks your heart to think I'll soon be gone. I'm moving on, moving on.
You're tuned in to Expat Radio.
Hello, this is Mike Madden on the Art Show on Expat Radio. You've been listening to Razmtaz and Moving On from their forthcoming album of the same name. Now, fortunately tonight we have the founder member of Razmtaz, so welcome to the show, Tony Maz.
Good evening.
Hi, Tony. Now, Razmtaz is it's an interesting story. You describe it as a mature man's band, which is which is great. I mean, like we all as mature men need a band. But you're from South Wales, which is the land of song, and you got your first guitar around the age of 14. So I guess that's about average for a young lad to start picking up the guitar. But what were your first memories of music?
Well, in those days, it's rather a unique thing, getting a guitar or any kind of musical instrument, really. I mean, predominantly, we were in a very working class area. It wasn't an affluent area in any way, means of. And for somebody to actually own an electric guitar was a bit of an anomaly. But with the help of people like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, all of a sudden, life was changing and dramatically. I mean, to us, we were just teenagers, we were 14, 15, growing up, and it was just a natural course of events. But to others, you've got to remember, it wasn't long before there was a world war on. And pace and life, I think, was moving very quickly. And subsequently, it has done, as you and I have both experienced, during the course of our lifetime.
Yeah, and of course,
did that answer the question?
Yeah, and of course Elvis hit the charts, and all of a sudden, that kind of music, that kind of stage presence, and that kind of sort of sexuality was challenging the norms of, like you say, the World War from the 40s. So, what kind of bands were you into at the time?
Well, at the time, it was very influenced by the Beatles, Rolling Stones, Yardbirds, and people like that. It wasn't, I don't suppose you could say, in its infancy, but in many ways, it probably was the beginning of pop music per se. Before that, there was jazz and rock and jive and skiffle and all that kind of stuff, which really had no interest or no bearing really on my musical interests. And the rest of us progressed along doing what we could. Things were not like they are today, where instantly, if you want to learn any kind of music or a tune or the words, it's there in front of you at a press of a button. Google it, and up it comes. You had to go out and you had to wait several months in many cases for the music to arrive in your local music shop, and or to see the words printed in. There was a paper out at the time called the Melody Maker, and I think they used to publish odd lyrics. Yeah, and of course, when you went to buy a copy of the record, it was quite expensive. But you had the cheaper alternative, which was about a third of the price from Woolworth. Now, the music was dire, but all the words were there. So you played this time and time again, and you learned things parrot fashion. And we all did. That's the way we went along. And invariably, because we were experimenting, I suppose, with music and with the sounds that we could have, which were very, very basic. 2 or 3 guitars and a drummer. And to be perfectly frank, it used to sound dreadful most of the time. But what was good was that there were a lot of enthusiasm. And what we found out afterwards, once you started to be fairly proficient and sounding like something or another, there was quite a lot of work. In fact, there was an incredible amount of work. In Wales, I don't know about the rest of Great Britain, the music scene wasn't in pubs, but it was certainly in working men's clubs. And that's where we used to play. And if I could say that the average wage then was probably about £5 or £6 a week, well, you could get £10 a night for doing a gig in a local club, which was phenomenal money. And we used to blow most of it, of course, on the emergence of Chinese and Indian restaurants that were making the rounds and starting up. And we used to end up, and you finishing a gig at 11 o'clock, and by the time you're travelling along, you needed something to eat, yeah? And that's where most of the money went. But, I mean, and it's probably still the same today. But having said that, there was lots and lots of dance halls and all manner of music venues for you to play in. So work was certainly no shortage.
I guess as well, thinking back to those days, it used to be Sunday night, you'd get a cassette, put it in your cassette recorder and tape the charts so that you had every song in the charts, and then you'd choose which ones you wanted to play.
Well, believe it or not, Michael, that came a decade or so later. Yes, I'm talking about 1962, 63, 64, and that hadn't been invented yet. But technology, you hit the nail on the head. Technology, like everything else in life, certainly came along, and it affected everything. Not just how you learned your songs and learned your music, but in the amplification, even the very instruments that you were playing, all improved with technology. At one time, we used to have a small little amplifier each, and only people who could understand how you measure loudness, and when it comes to amplifiers, it's in wattage output. And we would have been lucky to get an amplifier that had 30 watts output. An average drum set would produce about 200 watts of output. So you can see what you were up against. You were getting drowned out by the drummer, yeah?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until about the mid 60s that a guy called Jim Marshall invented the Marshall amplifiers. And they were brilliant because they were producing 100 watts. And of course, it was a must-have, iconic thing for every musician to own a 100-watt amplifier, yeah? And the speakers to go with it. So, technology made its mark and helped us tremendously.
So how did you get past the drum problem? From my experience, you stuffed towels in the bass drum to make it sound quieter.
I got to be truthful. It did depend very much on the drummer. If you had a rather large person, physically very strong, they seem to produce more volume. And they did. They used to put towels and things in. But for every drummer, there was a lead guitarist, bass guitarist, rhythm guitarist, and maybe if you were very, very lucky, a keyboard player. And if all of you had sort of 100-watt amplifiers, it seemed to blend in quite well. They could bang away merrily to the heart's content, yeah. Those days were absolutely explosive. They were experimental, and a load of really, really talented people came from those early days.
I guess a sound check was a very different beast back then than it is today.
Oh, there was a very simple sound check. You turned the knobs up full and went for it. It was as simple as that. It was everyone to their own. And of course, acoustics are very important. And in 90% of all these workman clubs that we went to, they had a hall as such, yeah? And of course, they were quite high ceilings. And you had a stage which was about 4 foot up from the floor, and the sound was just dreadful. But once you fill a dance floor full of people, they absorb the noise, yeah? They absorb the sound.
Yeah.
So the people at the back couldn't hear all that well, but down the front, they were putting their hands over their ears. So there was no sort of compromise, really, unless maybe you could be in the middle. I don't know. I was never out there. I was on the stage all the time.
Well, we touched on technology and how things have changed over the years. And we're going to dip back into your music collection now and play a song called Walk and Talk. And this has got a very special meaning for you in terms of technology. So just explain the idea behind Walk and Talk.
Michael, it was very simple. I wrote the song about 12, 13 years ago. And I used to get really, I can explain myself. Not annoyed, but surprised when people first started to use mobile phones in a domestic way. You'd be out shopping and there'd be a little old lady there phoning somebody up at home, telling them the price of cauliflowers and cabbage. And it's just a tickle me. But bit by bit, piece by piece, it used to progress. And we got to the point now where everybody uses mobile phones and laptops and all the rest of it. And to be perfectly honest, it's a matter of fact. They don't go anywhere without them. I mean, you see people in restaurants, two people eating, and the rest of the family sitting there reading their mobile phones or using their mobile phones. And not too long ago, we were doing this forthcoming album, and I was toying with the idea whether I should include Walks and Talks as a song. But I thought the lyrics needed sort of made a little bit more modern. And we were on a train journey from Cardiff to where I live in the Rhondda. And it was quite a long journey, and it was rush hour, and we were chock-a-block. And we were sat there, well, we weren't sat there, we were stood there, shoulder to shoulder, squeezed in like sardines, and all the young 20 to 30-somethings were all sat down using their mobiles and their laptops and playing games and talking to people and reading their texts and everything else. And there was old people, because I am quite old people like me, and in fact there's a woman in front of me who's on crutches. And not one of them looked up and offered to their chair or anything like that. Well, in my day, when I was 20 or 30 and I was on a train or a bus, that's the first thing you do. You give your seat up to an elderly passenger. But it didn't bother them. They just sat there, and I thought, that's it. I got to mention this in the song. And I have done, in a way. There's a little section in there which remarks about how people use their mobile phones each way they can.
I make you absolutely right, Tony, because I can remember back in the day, I wouldn't dream of sitting down if there was even just an adult on the bus. It didn't have to be elderly or infirm; it was just an adult. And and I do remember buses changed, and they had a poster up which said people who you should give your seat up for, like a lady who's pregnant, and it even went down to a lady you fancy. But I never got very far with that one. Whereas now, I just think they've given up now. It's like, I'm not going to stand up for anybody.
A lot of what you say is absolute. I don't know if attitude is the right word to use. Just maybe they've not been told. I really can't say what the reason for it is. But I mean, basic intelligence would say that if you're somebody old, or so as you say, somebody pregnant or on crutches, and you're in your 20s and they're in their 60s, it's a good idea to stand up and say, "Would you like my seat?" It doesn't harm.
Yeah, I think peer pressure might have something to do with it. But
yes,
there you go.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
Anyway, let's crack on with the music. So this is Razmtaz and Walks and Talks.
You see them walking down the high street. They're all talking on their phones. Who they're talking to, we don't know. They always talk alone. You see them to and from the workplace, texting, talking, playing games. On the bus, train, or while driving. Some of them are quite insane. And they walk and talk talk to. As long as you have your mobile on. And we walk and talk, text and talk, walk, talk all day long. The phone's become the latest obsession. You can never do without a technological addiction. Of that there is no doubt. And they walk and talk, drive and talk, walk, talk all day long. Walk and talk and drive and talk and walk and talking all day long.
You're listening to Expat Radio, beaming out across France and around the world.
Hello, this is Mike Madden on the Art Show on Expat Radio, and you've been listening to Walks and Talks by Razmtaz. Now, don't forget to check out our Facebook page and also our Twitter, and let us know exactly where you're listening to the show from. Now, Razmtaz were founded by Tony Maz, and we're delighted to welcome back to the show Tony. Welcome back.
Hi, thank you.
Now, before the break, we were talking about your career in music, playing working men's clubs and problems with sound checks and things like that. But you obviously overcame this and performed many, many times. So how come you weren't the next Beatles?
That's a very, very good question. And you would think, Wales being the land of song, and you can count on one hand, even today, how many top stars have actually, or bands, have actually come out of Wales and made it. And it's very, very few. But unfortunately for us, if you weren't from Liverpool, Manchester, or London, you didn't stand a chance. Nobody wanted to know. The only band at the time, I think, was one called Amen Corner. And that's,
Yeah,
I can remember them. And honestly, that was about it. I couldn't think of many others. There was one guy from Cardiff, can't remember his name now. And then, of course, with Tom Jones. He was the king of pop music as such, and has been for decades. But he was the only really, really big name that made it from the valleys. Nobody else, really. Not until, say, about 10, 15 years ago, when you had people like Stereophonics. Even then, Stereophonics and one or two others. But very few big bands. They all seem to come from Liverpool. Just thinking off the top of my head, you had the Swinging Blue Jeans. We done a booking with them, that's why I remember them. And the Searchers, and all these people, Jerry and the Pacemakers, Cilla Black. It was all sort of Liverpool orientated, and the Manchester, the Hollies and people like that, from areas like that. But there's very, very little from Wales. And the same again, of course, with London. It was just everybody else came there from there, Rolling Stones and so on and so on.
Yeah, I can only think of Andy Fairweather Lowe as a Welsh guitarist.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, he was in. What was he in? What did I just say now? I can't remember the name. That's right. He was in Amen Corner. There's one on the tip of my tongue who was a good singer and a good guitarist. I can't think of his name. Never mind. Old age, you see, Michael. Don't let it get you.
So you obviously you thought, well, I'm not going to be the new Beatles, so I'm going to give up music, and you went off to do various other things. We spoke about this yesterday. We've all got to make a living, and we've all got to do something that we can enjoy while we're doing it. But that wasn't where it all ended, obviously, because you're now part of Razmtaz. So where did it change?
Oh, as you say, you all have to make a living. I mean, and what happens is, I don't think I gave up music. I think music gave me up, yeah, to be perfectly frank. And it all sort of fizzled out around about 1980. And what happens is you get better occupation, better jobs, better prospects, and you simply haven't got time for music. It doesn't become part and parcel of your day-to-day activities. It doesn't matter any longer. And the music scene had changed, as far as I was concerned, to a greater extent. All the punk stuff started coming in, and it started to go a little bit, electronic, and that wasn't to my liking. But years went by, and it wasn't until a lot later in life, and I was in my sort of mid-50s, and I started to get arthritis in my hands quite badly. And literally, on a consultation with a doctor, he said, do you fancy learning to play the piano? And I laughed. Where the hell is this going? And he said, no, it's brilliant exercise for people who've got rheumatics. And I said, I can't play the piano, but I used to play the guitar. And, it's, as daft as this may sound. So with this, my wife, Christmas time, bought me a guitar and an amplifier, and it started from there. But what I found was that most of the songs I used to be able to play, I couldn't. I simply couldn't do the shapes, of the chords. And my voice had changed greatly. I mean, the songs I could sing, I couldn't sing no more. I mean, and that was down, I have to say it, sadly, that was down to too many cigarettes.
Right.
But I started then sort of writing stuff that I could play and in a key that I could sing in.
That makes a lot of sense. It makes an absolute lot of sense. And you were so you met up with a group of like-minded 50-year-olds and effectively created your own garage band for 50-year-olds. How did you all meet up?
Well, the good thing about Wales is there's always somebody knows somebody else who knows somebody else, who's doing the same thing as you. So you get mentioned and you get introduced. And a good friend of mine, ironically, I didn't know that his son was a very good keyboard player, and so on and so on. So we used to meet. We congregated in my garage at the bottom of the garden. We used to meet them for one night a week with the neighbours from hell. And, everybody bolted the windows down and shut the doors and done everything to keep the noise out. But we were having fun. We weren't hurting anybody. We were having a bit of enjoyment. But sadly, people are people, and you don't always. I mean, everybody will tell you musicians are the most finicky people in the world, and you don't always see eye to eye with each other. You don't always. And it's not so much personality clashes, but clashes in probably the style of music, because one wants to play this and the other wants to play that, and then they don't bother turning up for practice, and the next thing you know, there was 5 of you, then there's 4, then there's 3, then there's 2, and that's how it was for quite a few years. And then
you struck up a great friendship with a bass player called Marion Hewitt.
Yes, indeed. Literally instrumental in keeping me on the straight and narrow, because I was quite many times about to throw it all up and give it in, but no, Marion said, "No, you'll keep going." But I always, from those very early days, Mike, I always wanted to make a record, an album. I mean, even then, I used to write my own material, and of course, there was no means to record. I couldn't read or write music, and there was no means to record it down unless you could write music or had a tape recorder, which I could never afford. It was out of my reach. But I always used to write songs, and you forget them. Yeah, it's as simple as that. But now the facilities are all there, and we started to write songs, and we found a little recording studio only about 10 miles down the road. Unfortunately, the engineer and the owner of an absolutely all-round brilliant musician, and was literally so influential in what I did and how I did it. And without seemingly being too self-praising, some of the songs sound exceptionally professional. And it was all down to the help of this engineer, Dan Edwards, and Marian, and, perseverance.
So I know you ran into some quite serious health problems. So was that after the health problems?
It was after, yeah. Prior to that, in the middle of all this, I had a heart attack, and that knocks you back. And then I had to spend 6 weeks in hospital. And I had a quadruple bypass. Now, if any of your listeners have had this done, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's not an experience that you want to ever go through again. And the after effects of it was traumatic, and it took a great deal of time to really get over it all. It's unreal. And then I'd be jiggered 3 years down the line, and I'd given up smoking by then, by the way. It was marvellous. That helped. And then I found that I had prostate cancer. And with a bit of luck, we've, the jury's still out about that one, so we don't know where we are exactly. But things haven't got worse anyway, put it that way.
Well, we certainly wish you all the best with that one. And I guess, most people might have thought, well, perhaps it's not meant to be with all these health problems. But you were so determined, and you went into the studio. So was Dan kind of giving you the studio time for free, or did you have to fund it?
Oh, no, we had to fund it, but I have to say that it was at a very reasonable term. But he went over and above what I think any other normal studio would do. Because I've been in quite a few studios over the years, and mind you, I have to state this here and now, it was state of the art. He had everything there you could possibly want. And what was amazing, for example, I get the guitar and I go through the song, and he'd sit there and listen, and he'd say, right, keep playing. And the next thing you know, he's on the because it's all computer orientated, and he's adding the drums, and what do you think of that? And, well, okay, maybe we'll have a bit of this, bit of that, and then we do the vocals, and we come back in, and then I do the harmonies to the vocals. I never realised I could reach such high notes, and without being hit with a cricket bat, but in a certain place. The voice and the vocals were coming along really lovely. He would then add all manner of instruments, keyboard, organ sounds, and pianos, violins, and all manner of things. And then it's not just adding them, but it's the mixing. You have to be really an expert and know what you're doing. And there's one song on the album called Mind Stalking. And he said, I tell you what I want you to try. I want you to go, ooh, shalala. And you think, what? He said, trust me, just do ooh, shalala. So when you play that, up to you if you want to, if you play it, you will understand what I'm talking about. And when it's recorded then at about 3 or 4 different keys. So I got ooh shalala and then ooh shalala, and then I'm not going to do the higher one. And they blend them together, and it sounds absolutely amazing. Yeah, what they can do with technology.
Well, it is amazing what they can do with technology, and it's amazing what we can do as well, because by chance, our next track is Razmtaz and Mind Stalking.
sent me on my way. I know where you go. I know where you've been. I know who you're with. And I know when you're with him. You really broke my heart. You destroyed my soul. You dropped me like a stone, just to be with him. I know where you go. I know where you've been. I know who you're with. And I know when you're with him. You destroyed my heart. You destroyed my soul. You dropped me like a stone, just to be with him. I know where you go. I know where you've been. I know who you're with. And I know when you're with him. I know where you go. I know where you've been. I know who you're with. And I know when you're with him.
You're listening to Expat Radio. You're listening to Expat Radio, beaming out across France and around the world.
Hello, this is Mike Madden on Expat Radio. This is the Art Show, and our special guest tonight is Tony Maz of Razmtaz. Welcome back, Tony.
Hi.
Now, you were just talking about Mind Stalking, the song that we've just played, and you've got a new album moving on coming out in the next few weeks. So what does that actually mean these days? Because I can remember back in the day, an album was 33 1/3. It came in a big cardboard sleeve with pictures on and things like that. But I guess things are very different these days.
Oh, indeed, Mike, yes. There are two ways to get your albums. You either download them, or rather, I will upload them, I think is that the right phraseology, to somebody like YouTube or somebody like that. And then they send them out to all these various different companies, who Amazon and places like that, yeah. Spotify, I think one of them's called. And you can download them then and buy them from there. How much they charge, I have no idea. And then the other way is that the recording company that I made the album with introduced me to another company that copy your album onto discs, onto CDs.
Right, yeah.
And they do all the artwork and everything else. So you've got, just like the normal CDs you buy in the shop, you've got something like that. And it's nice to have, I suppose, something rather than a download which is on your computer or on your iPhone. You have something you can keep.
Yeah, because I can remember back in the 70s when I started buying music. You'd go into the shop, you'd buy a piece of vinyl that was put in a paper sleeve, or if the band were being extravagant, it'd be a cardboard sleeve. But with the albums, it was actually a real something to treasure. The images on the sleeve. Sometimes the lyrics were on the sleeve as well. And I think with CDs, you kind of lose that a little bit, even though, like you say, compared to a download, at least it's something to physically grab hold of.
Oh yes, certainly. I agree with you. You are right. The actual, physical side of things definitely gone. And albums for me, for my generation, you reminisce about it because everybody used to have a record player or a radiogram or whatever it was, and the sound seemed to be superb. Today now, it's like me now being very hypocritical. You have to sit with your headphones on to get a good reproduction, and a lot of the kids, they don't bother. They just play the song straight out of their mobile phone or their iPad, and the quality of the song is dreadful in most cases, but they seem to think it's okay.
I must admit, I don't really miss cassette tapes because they were a real pain.
Where they were very handy for us was that you could record songs off the radio or whatever it was. Should I say that? No, we never used to do that. And great song, a good song to do. And you take it to practice and you play it, and all the rest of the band would say, "No, rubbish. We're not doing that." But that was the kind of thing. You did have that facility. But that was the first time ever. Before that, I mean, there was a reel-to-reel tape recorder, and not many people had them.
No, they were quite exclusive. I think most people just had
That's right.
the Sony Walkman for the CDs and the I don't know what you'd call it, but basically a portable cassette player.
That's very true. Yeah, that's right.
So you've released a total of 9 singles, and moving on, is that your first album?
Yes, it is.
And other than sort of the financial implications, how do you actually know how many you've sold, or because I guess charts are different these days as well?
Mike, your guess is as good as mine. I have no idea. Apparently, the download companies that people buy them from pay you about once every 3 months. I don't even know how much you get. I mean, the singles, they recommend that the singles are priced at 79 pence each. Now, just how much I'm going to get from that 79 pence, I have no idea. But I didn't do it. I done it for self-gratification, if I'm truthful. I didn't do it for financial gain.
Yeah.
And it's just something to say, but here I am. I'm 71 years of age, and I've achieved what I've always wanted to do from the age of 15. And that's basically it. And to be perfectly frank, please God, if I was still around in 5 years' time and I've written another 9 songs, I may do another one. It might be called Moving On Too.
Well, you've got videos on YouTube to accompany it, and you've done singles and albums. Why not? Maybe star in your own video.
Well, funnily enough, I think I'm a little bit too old for that now, but it is something I've given a lot of thought about. I would like to make a lot more videos to go with the songs, because strangely enough, there's a song on the album called "We Take the Blame," which again was written, most of it, about 15 years ago, and I was rather concerned at the time. The Gulf War was on,
yeah,
and it was something I really didn't think we should have been involved in. So I wrote a song dedicated to the troops who were taking part in all that, in Afghanistan and the Gulf and all that kind of thing. And the title of the song was called "How I Wish." Now, I think maybe you might have picked up the problem of the title, wish, the SH on the end.
Yeah.
When I sang the word wish, it was always a shh. There's nothing I can do about it unless I rearrange my teeth. But really and truthfully, and it sounded dreadful, so I didn't release it. I was going to, but I didn't, and it just lay there dormant for years. And then making the album now, I rewrote all the words, and I changed the title of the song, and it was to "We Take the Blame," which is a lot better.
Right.
And And somehow, and we made a video and we put it onto YouTube. And it hadn't been on there a week. And Forces Radio got in touch with me and asked, could they have an interview like you're doing? So one Sunday morning, they interviewed us. And by then, it had over 2,800 likes on Facebook. Yeah?
Yeah.
So they were rather surprised by that, but they were all right, you know. But they unlike yourself, they were rather a bit brash. Cause, and one of the people doing the interview said, "Well, where do you play?" And I said, "Well, only in the garage." And he said, "What do you mean? You've never progressed to the kitchen or a bedroom?" So he'd been a bit flippant, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it was said in good faith and in a fun way. Yes, I, by all accounts, I've heard that they've played the song a couple of times since as well. So it's nice to know somebody out there is getting to hear it.
Well, we interview lots of people on the art show who are not musicians, and we're always happy to put songs in between the chat. So maybe Moving On or Mind Stalking will appear again on Expat Radio.
Fabulous.
Now, you've got another song that we're going to play out with called Reflections Radio. So what's the story behind that one?
Well, it's just Reflections, actually. The video is it's a typing error. It's added to the MP3. It should read Radio Ready. But never mind. It's just Reflection.
Absolutely.
Yes,
brilliant.
I know. You get all these things, all these little anomalies come to light, yes. But, well, like all my songs, really. I mean, life has been the inspiration, and you see things and you hear things as you go along through life, and people tell you things, and some things stick out in your mind. And Reflections, more or less, explains how you can have a relationship and it finishes, you move on, they move on, and you get to a part of your life and maybe you regret it, or at least if you don't regret it, you think about it and you wonder what could be, and that's what it's all about.
I think that in the conversation that we've had, it doesn't sound like you're regretting anything at all. It sounds like you're having a whale of a time.
No, I haven't. No, you'll quite agree. I've had if I say so myself, I've had a brilliant life. I've enjoyed myself, and please God, I hope to continue to have a brilliant life and keep enjoying things. Yes, yeah, things are marvelous.
Well, we all hope that. So, just before we go, can you just let people know how they can find out a little bit more about Razmtaz and where they can find your music?
Certainly. If they go onto YouTube and just tap in Razmtaz in capital letters, and the spelling is crucial. It's R-A-Z-M and then T-A-Z. No gaps. Razmtaz. Yeah? And if you put Razmtaz, up it will come, and they will see that there's two videos there, one called Moving On and the other one called We Take the Blame, as I've mentioned. And there's 7 other songs on there as well for them to have a look at and have a listen to for free. It doesn't cost them anything. And then, of course, if they do like it and they want to download it, please be my guest. And we do have a Facebook page, and it's Razmtaz. Look us up, leave your comments, introduce yourself, say hello, say goodbye, whatever you want to do.
It's been absolutely brilliant talking to you, Tony. Thank you so much for coming on. And we wish you all the best. And hopefully when you've got those other 9 songs, come back on and tell us all about it.
Oh, Michael, certainly I will. And thank you very much for the opportunity. And to all the listeners, please enjoy.
That's Tony Maz of Razmtaz, and we're going to play out with Razmtaz and Reflections.
Reflections on the water, reflections in my glass. Every sip of wine I take spins me to the past. I am there with you. I am there with you. Shadows on the water. Shadows of my past. I am back in yesterday. Reliving the past. I am there with you. I am there with you. You grew up, I grew old. Ships pass in the night. You are there, I am here. It did not turn out right. I should be there with you. I should be there with you. The past is past, the here is now. And I don't know what I can do. The past is past, time is gone. All I want is you. Want is you. I should be there with 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 you.
Hello, this is Mike Madden on the Arts Show on Expat Radio, and that was Tony Maz with his band Razmtaz and their song Reflection. Speaking of reflection, we're going to play out with this recording from last year, so this is Ollie and Reflection.
Reflection. I sit here reflecting, musing on what has passed. Happy times, sad times, and times that should not be forgotten nor forgiven. That window, an eye to the world outside. Golden shards of sunlight separated, falling on the dancing dust as children laugh and bounce on Grandma's bed. Their faces alive with innocent joy. Red cheeks and rolling tears. Is it the flu? No. It is the breathless child, carefree and filled with fun. I would have laughed with them, but that was not my place. My silent world could only see their wonder. Back then, Mr. Thomas would clean the outside panes, peering in as he did so. A wave, a blank look. A soapy streaked finish that sent those golden shards into a frenzy. Inside, your beloved wife scrubbed and polished. No rainbows for her. She would not abide a half-hearted task so carelessly rushed. Where did it all change? She grew old, infirm, frail. The window became her challenge, as grime edged upwards in accusing fingers. Black, speckled stains. Dull was inevitable, dark green mould. After a while, Mr. Thomas stopped too. What is the point of cleaning just one side of the window? Grandma's bed was lifeless, save for the laboured breaths as her struggle to fill those sickly lungs pushed her towards the edge. My eyes grew old too. Misty moments, movements flickering at the edge of me. Ah, I've seen so many things, yes. Even through the dust I have seen oh so many things. The morning sun is not so bright now. Grey gloom on a sunny day. Shadows dance in the dark when the rain patters on the pane. Each passing hour, each passing day, the darkness grows. A cancer in the room where once was light. Carol? Yes, Carol. That was her name. I could not hear you call it, but I could see it. Was it on a card, or maybe a letter? Her parted lips as she read the words turned that loving face into a funfair of upward curves and rare treats. Those eyes. Especially those eyes. As round as moons and with a smile all their own. Age saddened those times and dulled those eyes. Until death do us part, you promised. It was a mercy when the end came. Natural causes, the doctor wrote, scratching his pen on unsteady paper. The policeman removed his hat and held it close to his chest. His head bowed as he gave Carol, or the frail and lifeless body that used to be Carol, a final nod of respect. But what about you, Johnny boy? I know your name too. I saw a shirt emblazoned with your name. Until death do us part, Johnny boy. You comforted your sweet Carol, laid her head on that soft, comforting quilted pillow. Your daughter, Beth, I read her name too, saw Carol for the last time on Sunday, saw that soothing pillow for the last time on Sunday, although a casual glance amongst the grief was all she held. Now, where is that pillow, Johnny boy? No one knows about the pillow, do they, Johnny boy? No one but me. I watched you look at Carol. Her sleeping eyes saw nothing, knew nothing. Her gaunt face beckoned to you, begged you, and you were happy to oblige. I watched you take that unlikely murder weapon and place it oh so gently over her mouth and nose, stifling, suffocating, bleeding the last whispers of her life until none remained. Her strength gone. Her arms lay limp as her fingers flickered, fading signs of life. Her feet barely twitching. Her body too weak to protest. Oh yes, Johnny boy. It was mercifully quick in the end. That pillow, Johnny boy. You are safe now that pillow was gone. Carol has been laid to rest. Oh yes, Johnny boy. You laid her to rest. But can you look at her grave? Can you look at me? Can you look at yourself in the mirror?
You've been listening to the Arts Show podcast with Mike Madden. Come back soon for more artists, authors, musicians and anyone else connected with the arts. We're going to play out with Mike Sanchez and I Don't Stand a Chance.
Baby, you hiding something that you don't want me to know, because I'm getting a vibe from way down the side, like you're just about ready to go. If you can't tell me where you stayed last night, you just can't cope with treating me right. I'm on the road to heartbreak. Now's the time to tell me so, because I'm getting a chill like I'm gonna be ill. I know you don't want me no more. I won't be satisfied with your little white lies. Girl, I've only just begun to realize I don't stand a chance. I don't stand a chance. You don't wanna know and I can't make you dance. Well, I said goodbye. Find yourself another guy. I wish you were mine, but I'm losing my mind. I don't stand a chance. But you don't wanna love this man. Am I on the road to heartbreak? Now's the time to tell me so, because I'm getting a chill like I'm gonna be here. I know you don't want me no more. I won't be satisfied with your little white lies. Girl, I've only just begun to realize I don't stand a chance. No, I don't stand a chance. You don't wanna know when I can't make you dance. Well, I'll say goodbye. Find yourself another guy. I wish you were mine, but I'm losing my mind. I don't stand a chance. I don't stand a chance. I don't stand a chance, baby.